Good morning, children. Today again we will continue with the same chapter, the Khilji and the Tughluq Dynasties. Containment of nobles. Alauddin had to face a series of rebellions by his nobles and relations. He adopted several measures to bring them under his control. The nobles were not allowed to intermarry without his permission. No parties could be organized by the nobles without the prior consent of Sultan. Gambling was forbidden. Thus, the nobles were denied the opportunity of interacting with each other and conspiring against him. Drinking wine was banned. To set an example, Alauddin brought all the casks of wine from his palace and emptied them in public. An elaborate and efficient spy system was set up. The nobles could not move about freely. Everything they did in public places as well as in their homes was promptly reported to the Sultan. All feudal land grants were confiscated. Fresh grants were made, but the new landlords were no longer the owners of the land. They were only entitled to a part of the revenue which was fixed by the Sultan. They could not levy additional taxes on the peasants. Reorganization of the army. Alauddin was the first Sultan of Delhi to lay the foundation of a permanent standing army. The size of this standing army was greatly enlarged. He introduced the system of branding horses, dag, and maintaining a descriptive role of the soldier's chehra. Spies were kept in every unit of the army. Nobles were not allowed to maintain armies. The salaries of the soldiers were reduced and fixed. Revenue reforms. To meet the cost of maintaining a huge army, the Sultan needed a large amount of money. Thus, Alauddin introduced certain revenue reforms. The land was measured and the share of the state was fixed. Special revenue officials were appointed to collect the taxes. The Sultan increased the tax from 1/3 to half of the harvest. It was to be paid in cash. Market control policy. To compensate for the reduced salaries of soldiers and the heavy taxes imposed on the peasants, price control was introduced. Alauddin set up 3 markets in Delhi, one for food grains, the second for clothes for expensive items such as sugar and dry fruits, and the third for horses, slaves, and cattle, and the fixed prices of all the essential items. He introduced market control policy by appointing Shahana, a market controlling officer. The prices of all commodities were fixed and prices of essential items were kept low. Market officers were appointed to keep a strict watch on the prices, the weights used, and the activities of the traders. Anyone caught hoarding goods or cheating customers in price or weight was severely punished. If a merchant sold a commodity under the weight stated, an amount of flesh equivalent to the deficiency in weight was cut off from his body. State warehouses were set up and stocked with food grains, which were released whenever there was a famine or a shortage. Art and learning. Alauddin was a patron of art and learning. Amir Khusrau, the famous Persian poet, lived in his court. Alauddin's keen interest in architecture is clear from the large and imposing monuments built during his reign. The Alai Darwaza, built as an entrance door to the Qutub, is the most beautiful specimen of Khilji architecture. Alauddin was built a madrasa in Qutub complex. He built palaces and mosques. The city fort and the palace of 1,000 pillars were built by him. Alauddin died in 1316 CE. His death was followed by a period of political turmoil as his successors were unable to rule the kingdom effectively. In 1320 CE, the last Khilji ruler was killed. Tughluq Dynasty. In Tughluq Dynasty, we will cover Ghiyasuddin Tughluq, Muhammad Tughluq, and Firoz Shah Tughluq. In 1320 CE, the last Khilji ruler was killed by Ghiyasuddin Tughluq. He then founded a new dynasty that ruled India for the greater part of the 14th century CE. Ghiyasuddin Tughluq. Ghiyasuddin Tughluq was the son of a Turkish father and an Indian mother. He was an efficient administrator and a capable military commander. He introduced several reforms for the welfare of his subjects and suppressed revolts in distant provinces. He restored peace and stability in the Delhi Sultanate. Ghiyasuddin died in what appeared to be a deliberately planned accident. He was succeeded by his son Jona Khan, who ascended the throne under the title of Muhammad bin Tughluq. Muhammad bin Tughluq. Muhammad bin Tughluq was one of the most learned and accomplished scholars of his time. His intellectual curiosity and thirst for knowledge were boundless. Gifted with an extraordinary memory and a keen intellect, he had mastered logic, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and physical sciences. He was a lover of Persian literature and poetry, calligraphy, fine arts, and music. He loved the company of learned men. The contradictions in his character have led some historians to believe that he was mad. He has been variously described as the wisest fool, a madman, an idealist, and a visionary. He was a diligent ruler and undertook many projects. These projects were brilliantly conceived but poorly executed and always ended in failure.